Okay, well, I want to thank everyone for showing up. And for those of you who've done fair many times, it's probably a lot of review and old hash, but going to go through and make sure you hopefully answer any questions. There's a few little changes, but not much of anything that's going to change what you've been doing in the past. So we'll go ahead and start the slideshow. I'll be doing some of it. Tyler's going to be doing some of it. And oops. Okay. We're going to start out with a few of the changes and a little bit about what the race is, the map of the race, how that is sent, and
How you achieve?
Yeah. If the big tub was almost gone.
let me get these people muted. So, okay. And then details of different operator positions. Tyler's going to talk about WinLink, and then we'll talk a little bit about what the data is for and what we're sending it, how it gets there, and what the data, then finish up with what the data team is and what they do, and then go to the finish line. If you didn't know, Leland Barker created the race years ago. He sold the race to Cody Draper. I think this will be his third year. I think 2 years ago he kind of did it in conjunction with Leland, and last year was his first year by himself as the new owner. He takes a lot more effort, and he tries to do a much more planning, do a lot more planning than Leland does. So it's been fun to work with Cody and see some growth in the way things are run. So just to let you guys see some of the assignment list, if you haven't been paying attention, it gets a little different every day, especially when we get closer. I get some people wanting to jump in at last minute, and I get some others that have to bow out. So at the beginning of the race, we have Tyler and me as rovers, Chance Getz, Scott Saunders, and a Todd Nebaker that are going to be in side-by-sides helping with, mainly from about Tony Grove on, in case we got people that got to get out of the back country. They'll take their side-by-sides in and get them back down to like Beaver Mountain. And then start line will be myself, Tyler, and Kevin Reeve. We're going to use what we did last year, a QR code. The people just click on, take a picture of the QR code. It gives them a form, and it tells us that they're there and they're going to start. It worked fairly well last year. Then Logan Peak is Brandon Tibbetts is the running that one. Then at Latham Hollow will be Jordan Luke and his team. Then Upper Richards, Spencer Daddage is the lead there. pretty much he has the same team he's had for years. With Kim Openshaw gonna be there for the first time. Paul Hansen is the lead at Right Hand Fork and with his team. Temple Fork, Russ Lakis is the lead at Temple Fork. Brian Jenkins, the lead at Tony Grove, and he's got lots of family and a few others there with him, so they have a big crew up there. Paul Carter is the lead at Franklin Basin, and we had a Nate Webb that wanted to join, so we got him on just this week with his son and girlfriend, and then we found out Paul Harris is going to join them there. Russ, Paul, and Josh have been at Franklin for many years now, so they're used to that station. And then Logan River is Deanne is the lead, and Mark, and got some more with his team. Beaver Mountain is pretty much a team from down south. Ben Corey, he's been doing this race for many years. Brett Nielsen is helped with them. I believe last year was the first time he helped with them, and then Mike Rinland is gonna come up with him, and Don Summit's gonna be up there and work with those guys at Beaver Mountain. And Gibson Basin, Kimball Smith is the lead, and Kimball at Livingston has been doing Gibson for probably 3 or 4 years now, and it's a tough one to get to. It's the worst place on the whole thing to get to. Mount Logan is not fun, but it's not as challenging as Gibson, and so my hat's off to them. Tyler and I did that several years ago and said we're not going back. So anyway, thanks Kimball and Livingston's. Okay, Beaver Creek. Brett is the lead at Beaver Creek, and I believe all of those people have been there with Brett in the past. Mitch Smith is got Ranger Dip with Monty and Humphreys. I'm not sure if Keith is going to be there, but Spencer and Bryce Draper, so there'll be a good crew there. Some of these later stations end up taking forever, like almost 16-hour duties at like Ranger Dip and stuff, so they're long time. So then that finish line will be myself, Tyler, Kinley, and Dave Kavanaugh. And then the illustrious team of the data team, and we've got Shirley, Kent, Lori, Bart, Joseph, and I spelled his name wrong, Dave Lakis, and Blake Andrews. So if you see something that you can't, if you gotta change, let me know. If some of those assignments don't work for you, just get a hold of me after the meeting, and we'll figure out what we can do to make that work for you. Okay, some of the changes for this year. The finish line is going to be moved to Reserve Beach, which is, if you went to field day, it's like just 2 driveways down, I believe, from Eldon's property, a little bit further north. It's a big gate, and it'd be out on the right on the beach there at Reserve Beach. I believe the garage area of where we've been going the last 2 years collapsed in the snow. And so we could not have it the same place, and this will be right on the lake. So it'll be interesting to see. So, like we did last year from Latham Hollow, Aid Station 2, there will be cutoff times. And those cutoff times need to be strictly enforced. Once the time is up, the runners will be disqualified if they leave the aid station after the cutoff time. And that will be hopefully better for us, so we don't keep dragging it out and getting people that are never gonna make the cutoff times when it used to be we only had cutoff times from Tony Grove on, and this will make it much easier for us, and they're gonna be much more strict about this. So also something new is there's gonna be sweep runners that are gonna follow the last runner. And so you should know, even if you missed a runner or something, the sweep will come and they'll say, I am the last person. And so you will know, you won't keep wondering, well, is there anybody else? I know even when the last runner comes across, you ask him if he's the last runner, they'll go, I don't know. But this sweep runner will be the one who tells you that there's no more runners on the course. And then, along with what you get from the data team. So and then the pacer. If you can, please mute your stations. We're getting some background noise there. So that's a picture of the new pacer bib. I know at Finish Line it's been very confusing. You get a lot of times it's hard enough to get them to give you their numbers, but and then you go, are you a pacer? And especially at the Finish Line, they're so jubilant they're so excited about getting there. They're not listening to you, and we've never had pacer bibs before, but now we can go, okay, I can, if you see the pacer bib, you can go, okay, I can ignore this guy. He doesn't have a number. So, and then there's been a little bit of changes in routes to make sure now that the new Finish Line ends at 100 miles. It was only one place inside, and it was somewhere between two of the stations, and so now the mileages are more accurate. It's really won't affect us much, but if you notice that the mileage on you at your aid station might be, a quarter or half mile difference, that's why. Okay, Thursday, a week from tomorrow, you can meet up at Hiram Gibbons Park. There's and that's the runners will be getting their bibs. And if you haven't got a shirt yet, you can meet me there and we will get you a shirt. And it's the same place, the Hiram Gibbons Park, which is up in Cliffside. And so there's not a lot of information that they give out, but if you want to come up for the meeting and see the runners beforehand, you're more welcome to. But that's also where you're going to get your shirt. And any of you leads, if you could come up, and if people don't have shirts yet, I'll get you the shirts, and then you can pass them out to the rest of the people at your aid stations.
Hey, Ted,
Yes.
what does that top line mean, video 924?
So there's a video coming out that race director is making, and that's going to be their meeting. So instead of having a meeting there, this video will come out, and when it comes out, I will share it with you. He's making it this weekend. He's shared the pictures with me. He's got a lot of still pictures, but then he's going to, I guess, do a voiceover and stuff. And part of it's going to explain about the course markings, the tags and stuff. And that's something you guys should be aware of, just because you're going to hear people talking about it. And you can also see that on their website. But when this video comes out, I will share that video with you. So they're not going to have much of a meeting there, except for that's where they're going to drop their drop bags and get them to the race officials, and then that's where they're going to get their bibs and that kind of stuff. But you're welcome to come up there and, like I said, get your shirts, or just hang out for a bit and find out if there's any last minute things you want to ask us, or we can get answers for. So this is a great little tool that the new race director put out there last year. And there's a link to it if you go to the race communications guide. It has pretty much everything that you need to know for times. The first line here is cutoff times. It will tell you what aid stations have drop bags, and those are bags that the runners have taken there to each aid station, because not all aid stations can have their support teams there. So they can grab their drop bag, and they may have some food and a jacket or things in there. The next line shows the crew access, and it explains whether the crews can go there, or some crews can go, like Right Hand and Temple Fork. It's limited, and you can't go. They can't go there unless they have a tag that says they can go there, because they don't want everybody to go there. So
who gets tags for those? Is there some rules behind that?
yeah, there is, but it's not us. So we get up there, the tags go to the crews that they have, and they have, it's like if their runner is even or odd. So like one of them does evens and one does odds and things like that. But
for our our Upper Richards Hollow, we get 5 or 6 that drop out and need their support crew. So it'd be good to know which one of those we holler at to try to find their support crew. You know what I mean? If we knew which was odd or even, or what the guidelines were so we knew who to holler at.
We'll have to, I can get with you on that because we really can't send anybody up to where you are. So we'll have to get them down some way because most people aren't gonna have vehicles that can get up to where you're at. So, okay, so then the next is the Pacer access. So if you notice the first four up to even Richards Hollow, you cannot have, Pacers can't be there. They can't start there. First place they can have a Pacer is Right Hand Fork. And then Logan River, there's no Pacers, and also Gibson, no Pacers. But the Pacers can run through there, but they're not allowed to show up there to start pacing it like at Logan River. They can be at Franklin Basin and they could run from Franklin Basin all the way to the finish if they want to, but just that they're not allowed to drive up there and start pacing. Then the elevation, the vertical feet between aid stick, I guess that like at Logan Peak, from starting at Logan is 0, there's a 5,100 foot rise to get to Logan Peak. So, and then this just gives a location. And then these times are the male runner, the kind of the course record. And then the next one is the female course record. And then these other times are typical times for if they did it in less than 24 hours or 30 hours or 36 hours. So these will kind of let you know when the male record holder at that time would be, you know, your first runners coming through, and then the cutoff time is your last runner. Okay, here is a bunch of links.
Go back to that one real quick, Ted. Down there at the bottom, again, like we said, this sheet has the cutoff times for each aid station, and make sure your aid station captains, the person that's charged of that feeding the runners and all that stuff, they know that after that time they cannot leave. And make sure you push that point so you can get out of there too.
Yeah, when I first started doing this, I was at Temple Fork, and the cutoff time for Temple Fork is 10:30 p.m. And I remember a guy coming in around 1 a.m, and he was just walking, and we pretty much told him he was done, even though there was no cutoff time. He was already hours behind the last runners. Okay, some of the links. The assignment is here. Most of the links you'll find under the groups.io under the wiki, and it will say there's a Bear 100 there, and most of the emails I sent out have that link there. It will have the assignments, have all of these things in there. This is the wiki link here, and that's where it has all the links to, like the frequency list, the packet diagram, just about everything. So please go there, look at the info that's there. There's some aids on some documents saying what kind of stuff you should take with you to make sure you have what you need and you're going to be safe yourself. It can get really cold. And then also down here And in the communications guide that we've sent out and is also linked in the wiki, there is a waiver, and it's really simple. You go right here, you can read through this. You enter your first and last name, put your volunteer and say, yes, I agree to this, and submit. And that's essentially all you got to do. And you don't have to email anything back. You don't have to copy or paste or anything. You just fill that out and you're done. So please get that done. So the race is covered so that we don't have any problems there. Okay, so these are the rules that were given to the runners. Here it says limitation, dogs aren't allowed in the finish line area. Runners and crew ignoring this rule are subject to disqualification. Shortcutting of course. It's a closed course, must be completed as marked. If you leave the course, you can be disqualified. If you miss or skip a checkpoint, you can get disqualified. So at Right Hand Fork, can be confusing. And I was at Temple one year, and at Right Hand Fork, they run across this upper road and they have to go down the canyon to Right Hand Fork and then go right back up and get to the same road and continue on. Well, somebody missed it and he got to Temple and he was all upset. And we had to tell him that, sorry, unless you want to run back there and go down to it, you're disqualified. So it's important that they know that. Getting in a moving vehicle, yeah, you're not allowed to get a ride from one place to the other and get back on, but they can go sit in their vehicle at an aid station and warm up or cool down. That's fine. You can't impede another runner. Crewing outside of an aid station. So if somebody drove up along the road and started feeding somebody and it wasn't an aid station, that's not allowed. Unless, I mean, if somebody's sick or needs help, yeah, well, they're not gonna most likely finish anyway, but you certainly can give people help, but they're not allowed. Their crew can't go find them other places. Continuing on a course after a cutoff, denial of future entry. So not only would you be disqualified, you can't ever run this race again if they leave after the cutoff. Okay. Running as a bandit or a nuisance. I'm not sure what that means, but. And then use of performing enhancing drugs. So okay, then the rest of these will also be, if they get caught doing these, they could be denied future entry. And that's running as a bandit, pacing or crewing for another bandit runner, which I don't know, maybe that's somebody who didn't sign up for the race and just jumped in and started running the race. Having crews take cars to areas designated as off limits, and we showed those before. Disobeying Forest Service rules regarding disposal of human waste or mistreatment of environment, littering, failing to respect private property, mistreating aid station personnel, runners or pacers. and then using more than one pacer at a time until the last mile. So, and I noticed one thing that they've done. I'm not sure I quite understand it, but this is a cupless race this year. They're giving the runners these collapsible cups, and they're not going to have cups at the aid station because of the littering that was going on. So they have to pull out their cups, get it filled, and then they fold it up and take it with them. So I had to make this get this qualification that from the race director there. Besides finish line, there's actually no dogs allowed on the course, aid station, or the finish line. So please make arrangements for your animals at home that we can't have them up there. So just make sure you understand that. Okay, so a little bit about the race. It starts at 6 a.m. on Friday. It ends 36 hours later at 6 p.m. on Saturday. They cap the runners at 350, and then there's about 325 after no shows and dropouts. At one point, he had almost 400 people on the wait list that over the 350 that are hoping that some people will drop out and they can jump in. So there's a lot of people that want to run this race, but we're capped by our permit with the Forest Service. Okay, the race is a shotgun start, meaning all runners start at 6 o'clock. They fire a starter pistol and everybody goes at once.
Yeah, Kevin is our shotgun.
Yeah, Kevin's a shotgun. So one of our hardest things in the morning is runners don't always check in. So we have a hard time. Sometimes it takes us 2 to 3 of the first aid stations to get an accurate count of who's on the course, because we get some runners that show up late. They may start after we get there or we leave, and we get a lot that don't come up to us and say, yeah, I'm there. I mean, we get plenty that say they're going to be there, but when you're there in the morning, there's just a whole bunch of people and they're all milling around, and then all of a sudden they go, okay, here's the countdown, and they just take off. So we get most of them, but there's usually 25 to 50 that we're not sure, and then all of a sudden they show up to aid station 1 and we go, well, they must have started. So we also have a net control set up in Franklin, Idaho, ran by Franklin County Races. And then we have a dedicated data team to clean up and import data into the database. They also generate the did not starts and the did not finish lists, and periodically they send those lists out to the aid station, so you'll have a good idea of who's on the course. And then if you don't have a runner come in, you can compare and make sure that you got everybody through your aid station. We always miss some, but hopefully especially with the sweeps, that we should have that down to a real minimum this year. And then the data team and net control use Zoom, and the data team themselves, they usually stay at their own homes and they connect through Zoom, and they work on all these different aid stations to make sure that everyone got their data to them. So, and they also help collaborate with the net control when we're looking for runners or any information that's going on. So they work together very well. Okay. This is kind of the rough map. There's a really, if we go to this topo map, and it's also in the wiki, you can zoom in on it and you can see exactly where it goes. It's a great map. But all the red dots are the aid stations and the finish line and start line. So be sure to go look at that, especially around your area, so you know what to expect and things like that. So, okay, next we'll have Tyler take over for a little bit. So I'll stop sharing, and Tyler, you take over.
You see my screen okay?
Roger.
Okay, one of the things we used to do years ago was this is how we kept track of all the runners in the whole race. We put the runner number in, their in and out time. And so we still want you to continue using this, and believe me, it saves our lives even at the finish line many times, having it on paper in case you have a computer failure or you have some other kind of failure. And we usually have 2 copies of this running so that we can collaborate and make sure we've got everybody in and we got them in the right order and everything like that. So this form is available, and please make sure you use it.
Tyler, you're muted.
How did I do that? We did some calculations in 2018, and so there's 13 aid stations. I think now we have 12, but 344 registered runners, and there's 317 that started. So we had in and out times for each runner. So that was 13 times 317 times 2. So that was 8,442 data points, plus the finish line. And your figure, you're probably talking for each one of them data points, you're probably talking 7 seconds per item. So there was over 16 hours of one-way transmissions just to communicate the data back to net control. And that was even with 221 runners. So
that's when we used to do everything over the air.
Yeah, and if you had problems or you had an emergency, it was so hard to break in and get your message out. So now it's quite nice having it the way we do. So we have a runner time entry software that Cordell Smart and his son Andrew Smart wrote. There's links to that in the wiki, and you can download that and unzip it and install it. It can be installed anywhere. It doesn't need to be put in any specific directory. But this software, it's a Windows-based program, so you must have Windows computer to run it, or some way to run it on any other type of it. But Windows, of course, is your best. Keeping track of the runner's in and out times. The operator puts the runner's number in the inbox or the outbox, and upon hitting the return key, it'll enter it into the database. Gives them a sequence number. The time is tagged. So one of the things we need to make sure is before you go up, make sure your time on your computer is accurate. And the program also periodically saves the collected data to a backup file. So if you happen to have a computer problem, you can go to the backup file. You might not have the last few runners, but you should have a starting point you can go back and start entering from your paper again. And this program does not have an external connections to send out the collection data this time. We've always wanted to complete that part, but we never have. So software setup document. As it's updated version for 2022. Is still the same as 2023. So download that program. This is what the program screen looks like. When you start it up, you do the start runner entry time. This is an EXE program. It'll come up, says no station set, aid station set. And I don't think it will let you do anything until you do that. See, the first thing you got to do is go in and say, click the settings, go to set your location, and click on whichever aid station you're located at. That way the data file will have that tag in it too. So when the data team gets it, they know where that file came from. And then you have the clock running at the top. So you can kind of see when it too, but you can put the runners as they come in here and out as they come out here, and the data starts filling into the database. It's a CSV file, so it's just a text-based file. And please don't ever open it up with Excel because it'll mess it up big time. If you ever have to open it up, do it with a text editor or something, but not Excel.
You can actually edit right on this screen.
Yeah, if you have to edit a runner number or a time or something, or you can even put notes in there so that the data team has some idea what's going on if there's something special about that. And the program, if you put a runner in there that's already came through and left, it'll tell you a previous out time here, so you can go back and check your data and see if you were correct, or if they actually didn't leave and they're leaving now. So it double checks what you do. It's pretty good. Several ways to enter data into this database with times. For the in, with the number in the inbox, and hit enter, and below, or hit the plus key. So you can hit enter or plus, and it will enter the data in. You don't have to have the enter key if you don't, but whatever's convenient for you. For out, you can put the runner in the out and hit the enter box or the minus key. So plus is in, minus is out, or hit the enter button at the below the box where you enter the runner number. For people that are in and out, there's a lot of runners that don't even stop. They just run right straight through. You can do put the time in either one of them, either box, and hit a slash key, and it will enter the in and out time the same. So if even at that, I don't know if there's another slide that says it, the most important time we care about really is the out time. If we miss the in time, it's not such a big deal, but the out time is the most important time we need. And if there's a DNF, somebody's going to go out, you put their out time or their in time, and in the out time, you edit the out time and put DNF. And then any comments you want to about their DNF out here in the notes. So remember that when they come in, you get their in time. And if they decide to drop out, put DNF in the out time and notes if possible.
That can save you all sorts of time at the end, because if you didn't mark that and you didn't square that with data team, they're still gonna be looking for that runner, and now you don't know where he's at, and so now you're gonna be stuck there until we either find them, and we sometimes it's taken hours and hours to find him because he's gone home, so, and we think maybe he's lost, so make
And sometimes find them back in their motel asleep, so make sure we get the DNFs.
Comment,
Yes, go ahead, Paul.
W07N, we still fill out a DNF form that they signed, don't we?
Yes, we'll go over that in a minute, but there is a form that they must fill out if they're gonna DNF. Well, we'll go over that in a few minutes. So like I said, the keyboard shortcuts, numeric key plus adds the in time, the numeric key minus puts it as an out time, and a slash will do in and out. And if you have a number pad, either a USB or a wireless one, it can help you out a lot. So here's the DNF form. If a runner decides to drop out, they must fill out this form. You've got to have them fill out this form. If you have to have a drag down fight with it, we've got to have this information. So make sure you have copies with you when you go. We'll probably give you some, and then you keep the signed copies, and net control will ask you to read them back to them before you are released to make sure they have the same DNFs that you do. So make sure all this information out, the aid station, the date, the time, the runner number, their name, the station, the person confirming they're going to drop out, the reason for they're going to drop out, and where they're going, how they're going, and then make them sign it. So they understand if they take off and run and we have this form filled out, they can be disqualified. So
in the last couple of years, we've had this form filled out, but somebody didn't put the DNF in there. And we started searches for these people, and when we found them, I go, well, I filled out the paper and gave it to the radio operator, and then we looked, and yeah, we had the paper, but nobody put it into the software, and nobody remembered to look at that. But now I believe the data team makes you grab all those papers and read them back to them to make sure that they know who was DNF'd.
And it probably would be a wise thing that when you do have a DNF, you do call the data team and let them know. Call them directly and let them know that their runner number 241 dropped out. And they'll probably ask you, did you get a form? Or maybe remind you. So just make sure this form gets out if you have a DNF. Were you going to do it from here, Ted?
Just go to the repeater locations and then.
Okay. So most of the communications will go over the Mount Logan repeater. There is also, if you need to, everybody along the course except probably the finish line can get into Mount Logan. If you have some reason having problems, the Red Spur repeater is a good backup. And if you're really having problems, or if something happens to the repeater system itself, the Sedgwick repeater is the way backup. So and it's not available at every aid station, so keep in mind where your repeater is and make sure you know which one you can get into the best.
Okay, I'll take it, Tyler.
Okay.
You want to, okay, where the, I lost them.
And if anybody has any comments, feel free to unmute yourself and make them at any time during this meeting, because we might have missed something that you remembered, or that we need to make as important for everybody else.
Okay, so now kind of going over some of the areas and what happens. So at start line, we have a QR code. The runners come up to us and they scan it and log in that they're there. So that helps determine who starts. And then who's not on that list, we get a do not start list. We also, there's runner bags that they pick up. They either they pick it up Thursday night, or if they get left at starting line, we figured, well, they must not have ran because it has their bib number and stuff. So that's how we determine the did not start list. Okay. And then once we get that, then we can go ahead and start moving forward. So net control works jointly with all the facets of the Bear 100 race organization to provide and maintain communications necessary to help all runners to get through the course and know where each runner is at a specific time. And they work with the data team to do that over Zoom. And if you got problems that you don't know the answer to, get with them, and hopefully they'll help solve that problem. Okay.
So that's one thing we need to kind of differentiate. We have a net control and a data team. So know which one you need to talk to, net control or data team. And basically you don't need to go through net control to talk to the data team. You can go direct to either one.
But make sure you're not interfering with some traffic that net control is doing. And usually it's best if you ask permission to go direct to the data team, just to make sure that they're not in the middle of something and you didn't hear it. So some of the things that they're going to ask for is keeping track of the last 10 runners you have. So if you can give that, then because that helps the next station know who they're looking for, and to go, oh, okay, these are the last guys. And then hopefully, like I said, they're going to get the suite too. But if all those things jive, you're going to get out of there much sooner. A lot of you have had to stick around for a couple hours trying to figure out, did we miss this guy or what's going on? So try to keep track of that and answer the data team's questions when they give them as you're getting ready to shut down. So the data team, they work from each their own homes. And they receive the email and save the attachments that you send them with the CSV files in it. They review the attachments for data integrity. There's actually a little device in the website. They stick the program in and it scans it to see if there's any problems with the data. And if there's problems, then they have to go in and manually fix them before they actually upload it into the actual database. That database creates the did not start and the DNFs and gives them a file that they can send out to to all of you in the field, and it helps them figure out who should have come into your aid station and did you get everybody. Okay. And then again, they keep a Zoom line open between net control and themselves to help figure out lost runner problems or medical, net control may be running medical problems. And hopefully I didn't leave anybody out, but this is our data team. Shirley Larson is the lead, and her husband Kent helps her. Lori Little Dyke, Dave Lakis, Bart Neff, Joseph Longhurst, Blake Andrews, and Brandon Moore is the person from Adalist that has built this online database. And he actually, during the race, is actually part of the team that works with aid stations and moving around porta potties and stuff. So unfortunately, he's not usually available to the data team as readily as we'd hope when the race is going on, but because sometimes there's problems that only he can sort out, but he's put a lot of time in that database and stuff. So,
And this software is also available to all the support teams, although a lot of the race, there's no way for them to access that data, but this year they do. At the bottom parking lot at Tony Grove, there's going to be a Starlink system there, so they can pull in there and look up their run of data and do what they need to there.
yeah. Okay, aid station operators. Okay, aid station operators set up in a place that they can access all runners coming into and exiting the aid station. Here's a short list of items to plan on packing. Power, whatever you need, you will need to keep your radio and computers running for the time of your operation. You could be a 2,000 watt generator and fuel, solar or battery generators, chargers if you got some way to charge your batteries, and interconnects and splitters for power poles. One thing is a lot of people do is to run multiple PCs, so they're using one PC to log the data, and the other PC is to email it, either WinLink or if they have internet, direct email. We got at least Finish Line and 2 other places that can do direct email, and so you don't have to run WinLink. You can just send the email direct, and that just takes out one way that you may have problems if you can eliminate going through WinLink. So what we've done in the past is we networked them, and so the logging computer, you go in and you have a folder on one of your computers that's shared with the other computer, and he just, once you tell your logging person to save the file with the new name, then he'll just go grab that and email it. And that way, seems like every time I think, oh, here's a break, I'm going to go ahead and send my data, I kind of go to another screen, and then all of a sudden here comes everybody, and then I'm torn between going back to logging and getting it sent. So it's nice to be able to separate the two operations. So you're going to need your antennas, whatever type of antenna you're going to use, and it's most of this communication is not going to be handheld, so you're going to need a radio that, like a mobile radio with a antenna on a mast. Then you also want to have a radio where we have a simplex frequency, so you can talk to the people on the aid station in front of you and behind you. So if you need to talk to them and ask them questions, you can do that. You're gonna need your computers. There's some, if you somehow to either run it on 12 volts, if you have a 12-volt computer, or you're gonna have to have an inverter to go from battery to 110 to run your computer, or you you have a generator to give you the 110 for your computer, however you need to do that. But remember, some of you people are going to have hours and hours of operation, so laptops are great because if you lose power, their batteries will keep you going while you have time to restore your AC power.
And if you're running two computers, sometimes transferring data from one computer to the other can be as simple as a sneaker net or a thumb drive. But the best way is if you can network your two computers so somebody can just pull it right off your computer. But if not, make sure you got a couple extra thumb drives too.
Yeah. So other things you're going to need is folding tables, camp chairs. You're going to need shelters. And it's nice if you can have walls on your shelters. You're going to need some lights, and most definitely you're going to need some form of heat, or it gets cold. I believe these are pictures of Gibson Basin, and that snow wasn't there when they got there, or maybe that year it was, but it gets cold. I believe one year we had 6 inches of snow fall on Tony Grove during this race. And it gets wet too. This is, I believe, this is Tyler and I at Gibson Basin. There's another reason we decided we really didn't want to go back there. And that water wasn't there when we got there. It was a great day Friday night or Friday afternoon when we got there, but it turned bad in the nighttime. Okay, and this is also Gibson. I believe, but no, this isn't Gibson, because you can tell because this has a porta potty. Gibson Basin has a tent with a bucket. So the accommodations in these places are pretty rough most of the time. So know that beforehand. And like I said, you try to stay as warm as you can get. Okay. All right. Tyler, you want to take over from here?
You see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so the way we transfer the data back to Net Control is with the WinLink program. It's pretty widely used and well known in the ham radio community. So if you've never used it, this is a good opportunity to use it. It works very well for emergency communications and backcountry connections outside, especially if you have HF available. We're all going to do this on VHF. So we'll cover the WinLink software and how to get the database file ready to send via RF with WinLink Express. And this Bear 100 WinLink connection guide, I think I can bring it up. This guide here, you should be able to find it in a couple different places in the wiki and in the guide. Shows you from where what we have available, and then aid stations. It tells you which system you should be using to get to your data out. So Mount Logan, the first choice is direct to the gateway in Wellsville. Second choice is through the digipeater on Mount Logan. Like Latham Hollow, the first choice is directly to Red Spur. Second choice is through the Digi Mount Logan, and so on. So depending upon what aid station you're at, this guide should help you determine what you can connect to. Let's see. So this map kind of shows you where everything is that we've kind of talked about. The Logan WinLink server is actually not in Logan, it is actually in Wellsville now. Better coverage for the valley. There is a Logan Peak has a digipeater that will talk to the Wellsville packet gateway, and there will be a digipeater on Beaver Mountain and a gateway. So if you have to, most people don't need to use the digipeater to get into the gateway to Beaver Mountain, but if you're south of Beaver Mountain, you might need it because the gateway is right down at the lodge. There's going to be a gateway on Temple Peak that has cell phone data coverage, so that it can get back. Beaver Mountain has Wi-Fi there. The Temple Peak one is on cellular data, and there's a gateway at Red Spur that has a wireless link down to the valley, so that we can get data out from there. And then the finish line, we basically just do everything on Wi-Fi over there.
So the finish line, Beaver Mountain, and now Right Hand Fork will all have internet, so they won't have to run WinLink. They can just put it into Gmail or whatever and send it direct. So that will, one, free up the digis and also make it simpler and take out a step.
And also, like I said, down at the bottom parking lot at Tony Grove, there will be a WinLink gateway there too. I mean, a Starlink gateway that's mostly for the runners, for their support team, so they can get on and find out what their guy is doing and where they're at and located. But if something happened, you could do the old sneaker net method and put it on a thumb drive and go down there and send it. So just keep that in mind, but probably not as important to us.
And that's going to go away at a certain time because he's going to move that down to the finish line for the runners to use at the finish line. So I'm not sure what time he's going to pull the Starlink from Tony Grove, but I would guess somewhere is late at night on Friday night.
And this little packet guide that Ben Corey made for us, this is the one from 2022, but is exactly the same as 2023. It shows you where you're at, also how to make the connections to the different gateways or digipeaters you need, and how a WinLink should be set up to connect to them. Here it shows in the connection box on WinLink, it just shows the N7 UWX-10. This one here shows it going through a digipeater, N7 UWX-10, via the digipeater, which is N7 UWX-2. And this shows all the frequencies they're on. Each of them are on different frequencies, so we don't get lots of collisions. But it will be nice this year having a little more internet coverage.
So make sure, if you can at all do it, try not to use a digipeat. It will take twice as long and you may have more failures. So if you can make it happen direct, make it happen direct.
Yeah, direct is always the best way if you can do it. Digipeaters, it takes twice as long to send your data, at least twice as long. So
Hey.
Here's our, yes.
Hey, so I've been trying to get your WinLink connection going again tonight, and I'm still not getting through. Is it going to sleep again, or is there something I might be missing?
I don't know. There's 2 or 3 people that have been able to get through, so I'll go check after the meeting and see if it's gone to sleep, but I think I got all them settings changed, so maybe we'll have to get together and make sure it's working.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Tyler.
This is the ICS 205, which is part of the ICS system, which is part of what we kind of learned for ham radios, is the emergency communication sides of it. If you're an incident commander, this would help you decide what frequencies you use. If you're out in the field, it helps you use. So it shows you all everything we should be using for it. All aid stations should be on 7.2 repeater, Mount Logan. There's the backup repeaters if we need them. We have APRS, but this is mostly just for information. We can kind of see if you're there or not. We don't really use APRS other than to maybe find your location. We have the Logan Gateway on 145.030. The Red Spur Gateway is on 145.090. The Smithfield Gateway, which we probably don't need to worry about unless we really have a big problem. It's in Smithfield, is 144.95. So that one there, you can kind of forget about unless we really need it, but it's there in case we need a backup. And then there's the Beaver Mountain Gateway, 145.010, and the Temple Peak Gateway, it's 145.070. And then all the digipeaters and frequencies. And then over here is the call signs that you need to be using for each of them connections. We have the Simplex 147.52 is station to station. So if you need to contact the aid station before you or after you, most of the time you can do it, but it's not always possible. Excuse me. The race director, they could be using the Beaver Mountain Ski Patrol frequency, but most likely we're going to have enough 800 megahertz radios from the state on the UCA system that we can keep the race director, the medical people, and all the command leads on that frequency, and we can talk the whole course pretty much on that. And then there's the weather stations, the NOAA weather radio. It's always good to keep track of what the weather is doing and what you got coming your way. Radios. You will need communications to be able to run your WinLink station. If you do not have internet, which most stations will, but we do have more than we have had, so you need to talk to net control. So you'll need to do WinLink and net control. And you'll also need to talk to nearby aid stations. So you could use up to 3 radios if you do, but you could use your net control radio to talk to aid stations, but it's better if you have 3 because you'll probably get off on that simplex frequency and forget to check back, and then you'll miss something on the main frequency. Make sure you have a copy of the previous slides, the ICS form, so you can know what frequency you got to have in your radios. It's on the BARC website under the Bear 100 page. It's in the group's IL wiki, so it's out there in lots of places. We'll probably make a print pack too that we can send out the day before, so it has most of the information you should need. So what is WinLink? WinLink's a system for sending email over radio. It's useful when the internet is not available. For this example, it's sailing, but for us, it's a race. So, you know, most of this race will not have, I mean, once you leave the finish line until you get to the, or start line until you get to the finish line, there's no internet. You might get something if you're on the mountain peak, but most of the time not. So it's radio to radio email, or radio to internet email. There's also radio to radio email or peer to peer, but we probably won't be using that at this time. So it's a standard email. The program looks just like a regular email program. We used a lot in Aries and Races. The federal government even uses it, and state and local governments uses it too. The required equipment you need for the WinLink is a Windows operating system, computer, a laptop is preferred. If you can find a 12-volt power adapter, or if your laptop runs on 12 volts, or if you have some kind of a 12-volt power supply that you can hook up to your battery, it'll give you 120 volts. That's good too, but them things drain battery pretty quick. This will work for running WinLink, the RMS Express, for the Bear and the Bear 100 app, but I prefer to have 2 laptops if you can. You need to have 2 VHF, UHF transceivers, a terminal node controller, TNC, or a radio modem. You can use a sound card interface that'll do the TNC work too. Power to run the radio and the computer, and antennas for your radios. And it's not such a big deal anymore, but you used to make sure on the older computers you had to have Microsoft's Net Framework 3.1 at least on your computer run. Most computers now will run it, but I think I had one computer one time I had to backdate it to get it to work, so just to keep that in mind. Some of the compatible TNCs you can use are the Cantronics, KPC3s, KPC3 Pluses, the AE Time Wave, MFJs, the Kenwood radios, so the built-in TNCs such as the D710, the D700. There's the Bionic Tiny Tracks. There's sound card modems like the SignalLinks. SignalLink modem does a really good job. Also the DRA boards by, I can't remember the name of the company now. And if you've got lots of money, there's the SCS modems, but they're mostly for HF and they cost a lot of money. And eventually we'd like to get this system running on BARA, but for now we're just running regular packet and not BARA. So the preferred TNC is the Cantronics. They run around $200. Good little thing. It's separate from your computer. They're pretty nice little units. You can do a lot of things that other ones can't. But our preferred TNC radio is the Kenwood D710. It has a built-in TNC, and it does WinLink very easy and very nice. Easy to set up. It's a dual band radio, so you can do your WinLink on one side, one frequency, and you can run your net or one of the other frequencies on the other side. Very versatile radio. And we do have some of them available. They'll loan out if you need one. One note for the Kenwood D710, the data connection to get to the TNC is in the back of the head of the radio. It's not in the back of the radio itself. As it shows here, this is the connector you want to use, not the ones on the back of the radio. So like I said, the club does have quite a few of these radios available if you think you need one. We have the USB adapters and serial cables already in these boxes, so they're ready to go. Let me know and we can get you signed out.
You'll need, like it says there, you'll need your 12 volts and your computer. But other than that, everything's there.
Did you want to talk about these, Ted?
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. You can go ahead because I think it goes into how to use it. So go ahead and keep going.
Okay. Here's the old Cali Canyon crew, which I guess they are, but they got moved now up to Upper Richards Hollow, which is a little higher in the mountain.
They're really old.
Yeah, really old. Them guys are really old. Great crew though.
Yeah, go easy on them. They're still old.
Here's our right-hand fork crew from a few years ago. Their setup they had. So getting the data file ready to send. There's naming conventions to use with WinLink, the file we send. So the file should be saved in the data program, and it should be saved like this example here highlighted in yellow. Your aid number, aid station, so it's the aid, and then your station number 04, and then an underscore and a 1 for file number 2, an underscore 2 for file number 2, and so on until you get to the end of the race. The backup is an automatic file that saves every 5 minutes. So it's not the current file. It could be 5 minutes at a date. So just remember that. The Bear 100 program, you go to the files, save, and the default saving name is times.csv. The aid station collecting the runner should save the file and data to the first time using that file save as tab, and it saves it to the default times.csv. This is not the one that should be sent to net control. And then all future files are to be sent to the net control should be used file save as, and then change the file name to your aid station identifier. So aid 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it is, aid 04 underscore 1 underscore 2. So this is how all the files should be named. For an example, if you sent to net control, it would be named aid station 04 underscore 1. The next one would be aid station 04 underscore 2, and so on and so on. And here again, I say, do not open this file with Excel. It will save the data, even if you tell it you want it saved as a CSV. It will save that file with additional data and it will corrupt the file for the data team, and they will be cussing you severely. So do not open it with Excel. You can edit that program right in the runner database program, so it's easier to update it there than it is to have to open it up in Excel. If you need to open up for some reason, make sure it's a text-based editor and not Excel.
And please send these files as often as you can. We're finding some people are taking hours to send files, and we're getting people into next aid stations before we've verified that they went through a previous aid station, because people are taking so long to send the file. So the longest I would expect is a half hour between file sends.
So yeah, send your file often and make sure you name it right. Or something else I was going to say there too. And one other thing is, when you go to send your file, I don't know if we noted it anywhere else, try to make sure that nobody else is sending data at the same time as you. Try to pick an open space in there, which we usually have plenty of, and try not to send your data over top of somebody else, because it can kind of make collisions and slow down everybody's process. So make sure nobody is sending data when you start sending yours. Make sure you go ahead, Ted.
When you leave to go up the mountain, make sure you go to WinLink, open it up, because it's going to tell you that it needs to update the program, because it does like once or twice a week. And then make sure that if you have any mail in your inbox, you get that mail from like your Telnet connection or your home connection, and make sure that your WinLink ID hasn't expired, because if you don't use it in over a year, your WinLink email address will disappear. So
I think you got 400 and something days. So, but yeah, you got to make sure that you can connect. Make sure your WinLink works. Make sure it's up to date, because they update it quite a bit. And if you get up there and you try to connect to the gateway, something may have changed in there and your software won't talk to the gateway software and you could be having problems. So make sure you've had it opened up and you've ran WinLink before you head up the mountains.
And Shirley needs to get an email from you, so, because she has to make sure you're on her white list. So she will be sending out files from you, and if, so you guys can get in there, so she can send you the DNF and DNS files back. So make sure, you get on sometime, maybe this weekend, and I've been trying to get a hold of Shirley, but, we'll get that stuff out of the way, so when you will receive files from her.
So like Ted says, before you head up, you might want to fire it up. And if you're later on the race, you can download your DNS and DNF files that she's sent out already at home on your, maybe even on Telnet, so that you don't have to try to download them while you're up in the canyon. And there is an email address you need to send these files to. It is FC Races, what it was before, and we think that's what it'll be again, but we're not sure. We'll let you know when we figure out if that email address is still available. So sending a file to the data team. You start up on RMS Express. You go to settings and make sure you have this clicked. Review message list before downloading. This always saves me, especially when I'm out in remote locations, because if somebody sends you a file that is too big for you to download during this event, like somebody sends you a picture, you can tell it to download that later and not download it now. You can just download the important ones and save the rest of them for later. So make sure you have this review message list before downloading checked. Click on this icon to create a new message. Enter the email address, which we think is fcraces@gmail.com. We'll confirm that for sure. The subject is your file name too, so aid station 4_1. Then you click attach, and then you go if you click attach and then add, and then find your file number and double click on that, or click, and then I think there's a attach button down below. It will put the attachment file to the email. Continuing, you probably want to put some kind of description in here so that they can quickly view and see what it is. Like, this is file number 1 for Cali Canyon, runners 1 through 20. The subject should be the same, as at least somewhere similar to the attachment file name. It will help them if they have to do some sorting. And then once you get all this information in here, if you click to post to Outbox, which is now being moved over to the other end of the menu list, post to Outbox, it'll post it to your Outbox. WinLink does not automatically send emails. You have to post it and then send it later. So once you got it posted to your Outbox, over here it shows you have one message in your Outbox waiting to get sent. First thing you do is on this window drop down, select packet. Once you select packet, the second thing you do is select open session. In the open session, you can go in there and select your radio type. Once you got it set up, you shouldn't have to worry about it again, but there's all kinds, most of the common radios are in here. The D710 and the Cantronics are the most common ones. So make sure you got that correct. And the baud, let's see, you can see kind of underneath it, your baud rate and all that stuff. Usually you're good leaving it, the default ones, and then click update and it should save it. A digipeater settings. If you have to digipeat through Mount Logan, you have to click And this one here will say either direct or Digipeat. You have to make sure this one says Digipeat. Put the station you're going to connect to and the station you're going to connect through. You have to have them in there. So, and then you can click the start button. It'll start the session. If you got to go through Beaver Mountain, which is the only other one that has a Digipeater, make sure you have Digipeater selected, N7UWX-11, and you're going through Beaver. And then you can click the start button. Once it starts sending, you should be able to see the connection, the progress of the connection, until you get down to a disconnect is reported. That means it was successful. If you never get a disconnect or never get the disconnect reported, you may have had a problem.
Tyler,
Yes.
explain about channel selection.
Oh, like on this one here, a couple of these, both of these have channel selection. If you click this menu item here, this is two different, same window, different two places. If you click channel selection, you can select the channel you're going to connect to. It'll look at where you're located and get the local gateways, and gateways can show up here, and you can pull them from the channel selection button. You don't have to manually enter them in.
And that way you don't accidentally like put the wrong dash number or type it in wrong. You'll still have to click if you're going to go direct or Digipeat. But another thing you want to do before you go up in the mountains is click the channel selection, and it will say, do you want to update via Telnet? And you click that and it will give you the latest list, and it'll have all the gateways in and around the area for like 50 miles or something. So it's just helpful to put that in there. It also will tell you what frequency they're running on in case you forget, because you want to manually put your radio on that frequency.
Do you see this window here, Ted?
What window? Yeah.
So if you open this session, everything wants to open the screen, and you click channel selection, it'll give you a selection from all the local systems. So you can just click that and it'll put that in there for you. It tells you how far away it is from you. If you put your location in where you are up there, it might be your home station it's looking at too, but that's how that channel selection works. Okay, so sending a file takes a minute and 15 seconds to 2 minutes with only one hop. But like I said, if you're using two Digipeters, you can double the time. So make sure, if you can, preferably the connection is direct. It'll tell you how in your connection, it should tell you how long it takes and stuff nowadays. So you can kind of judge how well you're doing. Before you get your disconnected reported, it should tell you how long the connection takes. This is an example of what the data file, the CSV file we send looks like. Like we said, we prefer you not to mess with it. Just send it, let the data team fix it if it needs to be fixed, or if you feel comfortable. But you can go in and edit all these fields by yourself if you need to.
So be very careful editing the time.
Yes.
That is not, it looks like that, but it's actually inside the database, it actually looks different. So it's best if, say, you want to change something by a few minutes, just highlight one of the numbers and change that number. Don't like erase the number and type in the date and time, because it probably will not look right to the database. So you want to keep it as original as it was.
And like we said down here, the DNFs, make sure you put them, you record an in time for them, but make sure that the out time says DNF. And you can put any notes in that field right there that you need to. So remember that. Again, the radio network, we showed this a couple times, gives you examples, how to make the connections, what the connection on your WinLink software should look like. Okay, and where does all this data go? It used to be hand entered into a Google spreadsheet, and then that's how the runners' support teams would go. They'd have to go sort through this spreadsheet to find their runner information. And now Brandon Moore has created this owns Atlas. He's created this database program where we can go and easily search for the data we need to find for the runners. Software analyzes for the data errors, which we find some, and then the data team can usually correct what they need to and get it updated right. And like I said, it lets the data team know that there are errors and what needs attention. This is the spreadsheet they used to use when it used to be every person, somebody had to enter in every piece of data in there. Besides the radio operator calling it on the radio, somebody had to enter in and out time for every runner from every aid station. It was quite time consuming. You want to take this, Ted?
Okay. Every time I lose the toolbar.
One thing I'll say while Ted's getting that running, if you haven't already done so, make sure you put your name and call sign, or at least your name, in the chat box so we know who attended this meeting. We'd really appreciate that.
I can't get to my toolbar, Tyler, so if you will share it again and just, I'll tell you when to change it. Okay, so some of the new features in the database, the race director has got with Brandon Moore from Atlas, and he's going to add a bunch of features. One of the things was but in previous years, when a runner would finish, it would just say what time he finished. So you had to sit there and kind of do the math and figure out what time it was and how many hours that was. Now it's going to show how long it took him to run, because that's what they want to know. Did they do it under 24 hours or what? And I don't know what all the features are. I think he's going to try to do some predictive, like at this pace, this runner should be at this aid station at this time. And but he didn't really elaborate what he's going to try to have him do, but it should have some real nice features for us and the runners to see what's going on with the race. Okay, go ahead, Tyler. Okay, so this is the Gmail file like the data team's going to get, and they're going to see that, and then they can open up that CSV file and send it into the data team's race. So this is the screen that they've used in past years, and that there's like a bulk entry, and we actually have they have a button that they can say, here's all the runners, and they can do a bulk start And they can say, okay, they all start at 6 o'clock, and then they can just check off the ones that we said, well, they didn't start, and then we just push a button and it says everybody started at 6. And then there's buttons on there for them to upload the CSV files and do different things and test them. So that's kind of, this is the data team portal. It's not what the crews and the runners see, but it's what the data team sees. And there's the bulk start, and they can see the full race. They get there's a DNS list and a DNF list, so they can add to that. So they can do all those things with it. And then down here, there's at the bottom, they have the different aid stations, and that's where the data team does their magic. And then they can also search up here, and there's lots of search stuff in the pages for the crews and the runners to see too, but it's in a different format. Okay, Tyler. This is what they see. This is where they can put in their runner's bib number, and it will give them a whole list of every aid station that they've gone through and their times. And that's one of the reasons that we need to keep up on sending this in, because they're looking at it. They're trying to find out where their runner is and how they're doing. And if we wait 2 to 3 hours to send this data in, they get real nervous. Well, my runner's lost, or where is he? And where they may not be, we just haven't got updated info. Okay, go ahead, Tyler. So this is another view of the complete race, and I believe this one's, but yeah, it's by bib number. So you can look, you can search for the bib number, and you can see how people are doing. You can see there the fourth one down did not start, and then you'll go some that started, but then you'll get a DNF later. So that's that one. Go ahead, Tyler. And this is the finish. So if you notice, it does give a total time, but I'm not sure what kind of new stuff we're going to see, but this gives the first place, second place, and what your place is. And I think what they're going to do is also have women and men different groupings, so they can tell who the first woman was and who the first man was. So, okay, next. Okay, this is finish line several years ago. Next. Okay, this is explaining that some of us are going to be able to use Starlink instead of having to do it with WinLink. Then also we're going to have a rover team out there, like I mentioned. They're going to be on 800 megahertz as well as Mount Logan, and we will be able to get a hold of the race director and several of the race officials, and we have some medics on course. So if you need to get that kind of help, either the race director or medical, or you need to get people off the hill, get with Net Control. They can get a hold of one of us that has the 800 meg radios, and we can get a hold of somebody to get people either off the hill or medical attention, or something that we need the race director to make a decision on. So just to let you know, that's out there. Okay, This is one of the old finish lines. And then, these people are crazy what they do to themselves. And then please,
That's duct tape on his feet, holding the skin on.
yeah. So go to the next one. There's a finish line party and you're welcome to come. There's usually food there for you to eat and you can see some of the people's come in and you notice there's a lot of, when the racers come in, they don't just take off. A lot of them stick around and watch the other runners come in and cheer them on. So you're welcome to come over and see what's going on. So, and then on your way back, you can get some ice cream in Garden City. So, okay, I think we got one last slide. Oh, no. So here's another group of links that you could go find software links and things like that. And this presentation I sent out earlier on the Bear 100 radio comms groups IO. So you can go to this link and you can go find this information. Also, a lot of the information is in the Bear 100 communications guide. And like I said, in the wiki page, if you go to the Bear 100 comms wiki, that has all the links also. So we got any questions that anybody has?
Ted, I've got a question for you.
Go ahead.
So this one goes way back to slide number 10 on the dogs. Katie had mentioned it in the side comments, but we do get a lot of dogs up in that area. You want us to just get bib runner numbers for you, or how do you want us to handle all that?
I'm not gonna be a police in that.
Okay, we'll just kind of play it by ear. We've never had a problem with the dogs. Most people have been able to do pretty well with them. So I figure if nobody's causing problems, I'm just going to leave them.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted you to know because one of our people was sent, he went and helped with the Wasatch 100 and they had him go home because he had a dog. And so that's why I asked the question. And I don't know if it's, so I asked the race director and he said that was the rule. And I don't know if that rule was from the Forest Service or the Racing Federation or where it came from, but that, well, I just wanted to get that clarified and I didn't want somebody to bring a dog and then somebody,
Yeah, I don't think we need to be the dog police. That can be the aid station people if they feel it's necessary, or if you feel it's necessary, maybe, but we don't need to worry about it, I don't think.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, like I said, I'm just going to let them be as long as they're not causing problems. And if they are, just tell them at that point. So thanks, guys.
Yeah. Any other questions?
On the sweeper runners, that's going to be a separate runner leaving from every aid station, or is a single runner going to be going on multiple legs?
I don't know that for sure. There is a person in charge of that. I think they're going to try to get one for each one, but it may be the same one that does 2 or 3. I'm sure it's not one runner the whole way, but and they will be in charge of making it known that they are the last person, that they are the sweep. we may have something pretty cool happen, but we're not sure it's gonna happen, but the sweeper runners are going to have a satellite spotting device. It's not the common one that a lot of people are using, but they have a device
I think.
that can send a message and that we can see where they are. And the guys at Wasatch 100 with the normal spot trackers built with Caltopo, a map that actually showed them on the map, and they offered to do that for us. And so they're working to see if they can make the spot trackers that we're using to work. So if that happens, with the help of the internet and the data team, should be able to see where these guys are, the sweeps, so they can hopefully say, hey, yeah, he's a mile out from you guys or whatever. So but I believe we have to get with the race director. I believe we will have some of that data so we can see where they are. And like I said, it's not going to help us, but if the data team knows where where those runners are, that will be a big help. So you kind of have a feeling that, oh wow, they're still 5 miles out, or oh, they're almost here. So
Well, if you get a chance to talk to the sweep team or the race director, and let them know, it would be great if the sweep could leave the aid station at the cutoff time rather than waiting for everybody to come through that aid station. So then the next aid station doesn't have to wait for everybody. That'd be great. Like once the disqualification time goes, send the sweep, and then we wait for the sweep to come to us
I'm
that
sure
came from
that's
the
their
previous
plan.
station.
That's
Okay.
probably their plan, is because nobody should leave after the cutoff time.
yeah, so he's going to take the sweep will leave with the last viable person for the cutoff time. Like it said in there, they are serious about the cutoff times, and if somebody leaves after that, they won't be able to do the race again at this. So hopefully it works as well as they say, and so the only other possibility is if somebody took a wrong turn and and then they could be, quote, lost or in the wrong place, and the sweep could pass them, and then it gets behind them. But I don't know of any way to, except for everyone having a spot tracker to solve that problem.
Again, if you haven't already done so, put your name and call sign in the chat so we can have kind of a roll who attended tonight. We'd really appreciate that. I think most everybody's got it in there already, but if you haven't done it already, we'll leave this open for a few minutes so you can get that entered in.
All right, any other questions? Taking a little bit longer than I thought, but hopefully it was a good refresher for people.
You're going to put the presentation on the wiki. It's still got the 22 on there. It says 23, but it still has the 22 on there.
The presentation, yeah, we could put it there. The one
There still is a link to the 22 presentation on the wiki in one place.
Yeah, we'll put this one on it.
I just remembered one last thing. I don't know how important it is for most people, but I was talking with Michelle. She's the one in charge of all the aid stations, and she's going to have a medical doctor and 8 med students that are going to be out on the course this year. So we'll have a lot of medical, at least, that can get around.
Yeah, their work they're working with it, and we're going to be, our rover team will be working with them so that they could get them around.
Another question, I'm working with people that I don't know who don't know them. Is there a place in the wiki that you've got people's phone numbers listed?
Just email them.
Okay, thank you.
And they'll be reaching out to you, Don. I've told them to do that.
Okay, that'll be helpful because I'm just brand new here, so thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and close this and
Go ahead and close the net.
yeah, everyone have, make sure you stay warm and hydrated, and you're more than welcome to go get stuff out of the aid station food. They've always let us in the past go over, and it's not, most of the food is like high carbs, so but help yourself.
When you get there, just approach your aid captain and tell them that you would like to be fed. And a lot of times they'll make you a good meal. They'll set something aside for you if you're nice.
Bring your own cup.
Yeah, that's true. So if you go to their website, you can see the cup. They got some sort of special cup. So like you said, they're not going to supply cups this year. So all right, thanks everyone.